Good morning, and I am back to answer some more of your Beth and Bethyl questions. Let's just dive right in. I actually have quite a few of these this week that I'm going to try and get through. I haven't had this much hope in her return in a very long time, probably not since 5B. After that was when I became super depressed, and I just despised this show with all of my being for taking her away like that. It felt like I lost a close friend without closure, and I had to learn how to let her go and try to come to terms with them writing her off so poorly, but I just couldn't help but think something was still off. I thought with the flagship show done, I would just be resentful forever and have the F this show kind of attitude that I've had for years. But with everything going on and the spinoff focused on Daryl and all the comic storyline stuff gone, I really feel hopeful again. It's like they're free to do what they want, and maybe this was the master plan all along. Yeah, no, I agree. And I do think it was the master plan. You know, I've talked a lot about how I think it got pushed back and it took longer than they thought and there were setbacks and things changed and everything, but I do think it was the master plan, and especially because there's just something about the fact that Melissa did not do the first season and we did not see her in the first season, and now we're having way more hints about it, and Emily's saying suspicious things at cons, and we know Melissa's going to be doing it. And in season 5, it was Daryl and Carol who went and found Beth. I mean, it's so compelling to me. I can't not see the patterns there. So yeah, I agree. I do think it was the master plan. I do think they were waiting for Melissa to be able to do the show, and now she is. And so yeah, I feel you. I've got a lot of hope in her return, specifically for this season of Daryl Dixon. So I'm super excited. Thank you for that. One thing keeping me from believing the scrap story theory and that Coda was a rewrite and the missing film scenes were all scrapped is that I feel like someone would have spilled the beans by now. Laurie Holden spilled about how she got shafted. Chandler Riggs' dad was singing like a bird when Carl got killed off. I feel like someone or some article would have come out about behind-the-scenes mess and rewrites and whatnot, but I haven't seen or heard anything on it. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you gave two good examples there of Laurie Holden and Chandler, but there have been others too. And usually it waits until the person has been killed off, because of course they don't want to do spoilers. But another big one was Dale from season 2. I'm blanking on the name of the actor who played him, but he asked to be written out. They weren't actually planning to kill Dale in season 2. But he asked to be written out because he was upset that the original showrunner who brought him into the show, who was actually a good friend of his in real life, he felt like he was treated unfairly and pushed out by the studio, so he didn't want to do the show anymore. Sophia, who was played by Madison Lintz, she asked to be written out, and that was because she was still a little girl at the time and she wasn't sure that she wanted to act, and she changed her mind. She is still acting, but at the time I think she just wanted to do little girl things. She didn't want to be on the set every waking moment that she wasn't in school. And it was taking time away from her playing with her friends and just doing the things she liked to do. And so she asked to be written out. And she did change her mind, but by then it had already been written and mostly filmed, so they weren't able to reverse that. But yeah, I mean, usually once someone does die, they come out and tell us what happened. And they did say the thing about how they decided in 7 that she was being killed in 8, but we've really debunked the crap out of that at this point, that there's just no way that that's true. I mean, we are pretty dang sure that Emily knew from the very beginning of the season what was going on, because they've told us in other times without any uncertainty or anything that the actors know at the beginning of the season what their character arc is going to be. So it doesn't make sense that they would suddenly scrap a major storyline like that. That's not actually something that they do. And then there's the fact that there's foreshadowing for her death clear back in season 4. So at the very least, the writers knew exactly what they were doing and exactly what they were pointing to, and they had the whole sequence at Grady planned out in season 4. That doesn't necessarily mean that Emily knew about it back then, although I think she probably did. But at the very least, she would have known before they started filming season 5. So yeah, there's just a lot of suspicious things, and you're right. The other thing that I always go back to, it's a really minor detail, but it's pretty compelling to me, is that during the missing 17 days that they were filming at those White Houses, there was a man who, I believe he was the owner of one of the properties, and he was allowed to be on set and take pictures while they were filming. He just had to sign an NDR and agree that he wouldn't post the pictures anywhere, like on the internet, until after the scenes aired. And we have still not seen those pictures. They have not posted yet. So if they had just scrapped it and decided they weren't going to use that storyline, they would have allowed him to post the pictures and said, okay, well, we filmed here, but then we ended up doing something else, but you can post the pictures now because it's not something that's actually going to air. And we would have seen those pictures. 10 years later, we have not seen those pictures, guys, which means they are still planning to air those scenes. If they weren't, they would have allowed him to post those. So yeah, I agree. We would know a lot more about what happened. We would have been told everything that went down if they were not still planning to do something with that storyline and with bringing her back. So yeah, I completely agree. Thank you for that. At this point, I just want closure. If she's alive and this is the plan all along, I will explode from happiness. But if not, I just want answers. And will we ever get them? Will we ever know why so much crap was filmed and not seen? Will we ever know why she didn't get a funeral and why we didn't get closure? It should be easy to answer, shouldn't it? I mean, yeah, this more of what I just kind of said in the last one. There's a lot of things that show that they are still going to give us answers, that they do still have things that they filmed that we haven't seen yet, but that they're planning to. And I'm going to go ahead and say that we actually know that she did get a funeral. We did not see it in the show, like that's for sure. And that's what you mean. I know that's what you mean. But remember that AMC released a trading card, and it was an official trading card that said that they tried to bury her at a white church. And we know, this is what I'm saying, you guys, it's not just a theory anymore. You know, you can't ignore it. They released the trading card saying that they tried to bury Beth at a white church, and we obviously never saw that in the show. Okay, but what we do know is that during the missing 17 days, they were filming at a white church that was behind a wall, a fence of some kind, so they couldn't, even the spoiler cameras, it was the Spoiling Dead fans back then were trying to get footage and everything, and all we have are pictures of the church steeple, what they could see of it above the fence, because it was all fenced off, and they couldn't actually see what was being filmed at the time, but they could see lights, they could hear voices, they could tell there were people over there moving around, cars and cameras and things like that. So the point is, okay, number one, they released the trading card telling us that they tried to bury Beth at a white church, but obviously we never saw that. Then we know, because of those spoilers or the cameras, that they were filming at a white church. It was a night shoot, and that Emily was there. And number three, I'm going to throw in there, I'm pretty sure that was the night that she posted the 3 monkeys on her account and talked about, she said something about zombies. Anyway, so everybody knew that she was filming that night, and the 3 monkeys, the 3 wise Tibetan monkeys, which is hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, is a big theme in the show. So with those 3 things together, there's just no way that they didn't film that and that it's not going to come out in the show at some point. At some point they're going to have to show us that footage, because we know they filmed it and haven't shown it to us yet. It has to be that, her funeral at the church. But again, to the point of the last one I read, if they had scrapped it, we would have seen it by now. They would have released it as deleted scenes or something, and they haven't. So yeah, just that. I mean, and everything I just said, you guys, is a fact. It is not a theory. So all of that, I agree. I mean, when you say I just want closure, I always just say until we see that, until they tell us differently, until Gimple comes out and looks us straight in the eye and says this is what happened and she's definitely not coming back, then I am still on Team Delusional. And yeah, I get that the naysayers say, well, they have said that a few times, or they have said a few times that she's died, or, whatever the case may be. I get that, but it's still not... They haven't released the footage, and they haven't explained why they released a trading card that said that they tried to bury her at a church, and we never saw that in the show. And they haven't shown us what was filmed there, and they haven't, you know what I mean? So, and I agree. Until we get those answers, I'm still here, and I'm going to continue to be here. So, yes, I totally agree, and hopefully with this season of Daryl Dixon, we'll finally start to get some answers. In my mind, I think it would be pretty cool if we see Beth is alive in a coda of some sort, and with another community before any of the other characters do. Kind of like with Morgan at the end of 501. It's a shock, and she still has her scars and her bullet wounds, so we know this isn't a dream. It would be pretty cool if she discovers Daryl is alive through a recording or video or radio transmission or something, because he's the one having all these wild adventures. Then she decides to go looking for him. It would be nice if she found him first, and Daryl would be so shocked. It would be like he was seeing a ghost, and inverse of season 5. Yeah, I mean, okay, there's a lot to unpack here, and actually this is something that me and my fellow theorists have talked about, but first let me address the Morgan thing. Yeah, there was a lot of people in season 5 who thought that he was a proxy or a template for Beth, and that she would show up that way. Especially because, remember, in season 5 when he showed up, he was wearing that mask, and there wasn't a whole lot of obvious reason for that. I mean, it wasn't a big part of his arc, and we didn't see it a lot after that. So it was just kind of odd that he was wearing the mask, and the only reason to have him do that is either for symbolic purposes or to maybe obscure his face for a little bit longer, but they didn't really use it to obscure his face for very long. He turned around and he was wearing it, and then he took it off, and that was it. And, obviously everybody knew it was Morgan and recognized him. So we thought it could be part of the mask template to show, if he is a proxy for Beth, that she's going to be wearing a mask of some kind, maybe literal, but also maybe symbolic. If she shows up with a rebel group or a group that's, at first Daryl thinks is a bad group, then she's going to be wearing a mask. And we can even tie that also symbolically to Leah, because once again, Leah misrepresented herself to Daryl, so she was wearing symbolically a mask of who she was. And then when he came upon her again, she was wearing an actual mask because she was with the Reapers, and that was a negative group. So you see what I mean? Like, we've kind of seen these patterns in these templates. So I definitely think they could do that with Beth at some point and have her show up. And I think that's what a lot of us have always kind of been hoping, is that she would show up in some coda here or there, and that would be her return, even if we didn't see her again after that for a few episodes, like with Morgan. It hasn't happened yet, but that doesn't mean it couldn't. Now, you talk about her finding Daryl, and actually, myself and W.D. Way and Galadriel Jones have talked about this a lot recently, especially about how we actually think there's a good chance she will find him rather than him finding her. I mean, it'll still be a matter of them finding each other and him kind of stumbling onto her, but that it might be her looking for him and finding him. And the reason, it really has more to do with Daryl than it does have to do with Beth, because he, like you said, he's always the one searching for people, but he is never the one who is found. And it really goes back to season 2, when he was telling Andrea that story about how he got lost in the woods as a little boy, and nobody ever went looking for him. So nobody ever came and found him. And he's somebody who he deserves to be found. He needs to be found once. And when we were thinking about it, actually, Leah did kind of find him. It was more her finding him than him finding her, because she told him that she recognized him. He ran into a handful of the Reapers at one point when he was looking for Dog, and one of them was Leah, and she recognized him, but he didn't recognize her because she was wearing the mask. So then she went looking for him and found him, and so we do think that could be a pattern or a template for Beth, that she will actually find him between the two. And I don't think it's going to be like necessarily a huge deal like with Leah. It's just going to be her searching for him and finding him, and he's going to be shocked to see her, like you said. So it's kind of a detail, but it's, in a lot of ways, it's an important detail, because he, like you said, he's the one who always looks for other people, and no one ever looks for him. And so it would be nice if Beth went looking for him and found him. I would really like that, actually. So yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up, because we were just talking about that probably a week ago, and how that's kind of an interesting little, just a part of his arc that they've put in there, and it's so subtle, you really have to look for it, but it would be a really sweet way to bring them back together. So I would like that, and here's hoping that's exactly what they do. All right, I think I'm going to stop there for today, but I will be back soon to answer more of your questions. Everyone have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.